looks like that. I'm going to give my program a name. This will be found under the saved files on your NXT. I'm going to call this Lego. You know what? I'm going to call it Little Bits RC. I'm going to hit go. I have my programming palette here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a program where when I clap, the robot will turn right. And when, let's see, what should I do? When there is something moves in front of the ultrasonic sensor, it will turn left. And when there is a light, it will back up. And this is similar to what you're going to be doing to control your robot. So in order to do that first, I'm going to put everything inside a loop. That means everything in here will be repeated until the robot runs out of electrons. So then I'm going to put inside this a switch. Right there. And this switch is going to be an if-then statement. So the first thing is I'm going to choose my sensor. Right here it's defaulting at the touch sensor, and I don't want to do that. I'm going to default it first at, let's see, what do I want to do it? The sound sensor. Okay. And I'm going to choose, when I clap, this will happen, and when I don't clap, the default will happen. Well, I want it to always be moving forward for an unlimited period of time at 100% of its power, and I want motors B and C to be doing that. Okay. So that's the default right there. Well, what do I want to have happen if I clap? Well, first off, let's look down here. This is where you can control the sound levels. So a sound greater than 50 will cause this action to happen. We don't really know what 50 is. That's decibels. So let's make it really sensitive. Any sound greater than 10, just so we can play around with it, will cause the above action to happen. And what do we want the above action to be? And anything I pull in from up here are movements. We want that to be a right turn. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to make it do a hard right turn. I want that to happen at 100% of its power, and I'd like it to do it for 3 rotations. Okay, so it's going to be a quick right. So here's my first program in a loop. Okay, this is going to happen over and over again. Every time I clap or make a noise, it's going to do a hard right at 100% of its power for 3 rotations. When I'm not doing that, it's going to be going unlimited straight. Well, what happens if it's not checking for that happening? Well, we can throw another switch into this loop. Okay, so if that's not happening, something else can happen. And what did we want? We wanted an ultrasonic sensor. So here we're going to choose the ultrasonic sensor. And when the ultrasonic sensor is not activated, we want it to be the same thing as there. We want it to be going at 100% of its power. We want it to be going for unlimited rotations straight. But when something does get in front of it, right, and what do we want that to be? Well, down here, this is when anything is less than 50 inches. Why don't we make that 10 inches? Actually, you know, since we're going to be using a servo motor, we can make that 3 inches. So if anything's within 3 inches of that, what's it going to do? That was turn right. We'll make that turn a hard left. And we're going to put the motor at 100% of its power, and we're going to have it happen for 3 rotations. So now we have built a program in this loop The microprocessor is constantly checking for the presence of sound or something in front of it. If it hears a sound, it's going to take a hard right. If it doesn't hear a sound, it's going to go straight forward. If it sees an object in front of it, it's going to take a hard left. If it doesn't see an object in front of it, it's going to go right. And you can control this by making a sound or moving the servo motor at the same time. But we might want to move backwards sometimes. So let's add in another loop. Okay, and we're going to do that with the light sensor. Okay. And again, much like the sound sensor, you're going to have to compare here. But let's move our default in the bottom. And we want the default here to be the same. At 100% of the power for unlimited rotations, we're going to be activating motors B and C to go straight. Well, this is comparing light, right? So you're going to have to play around with this. So right here, this is saying if it's greater than 10, or here it's greater than 90, I don't really know what that even means. So you guys are going to have to play around with this. What I would do to play it around is I'd put it on an extreme, and I think this means extreme light, and this probably means extreme dark. Play around with that for a little bit. I'm really not sure. But what we know is we want motors B and C, in this case, not moving forward, not turning, moving backwards. And we want them moving backwards, let's see, when it sees that light. And when it sees that light, we could say, let's have it move backwards for a period of time. Let's have it move backwards for 2 seconds every time. Okay. So you'd plug your NXT in, hit this download button. That'll download it in, and you'll look for the program called LittleBits RC. Now, let's go over what this means again. Inside this loop, which is going to happen, the motor is going to constantly be checking for the presence of sound. It'll take a right, an object in front within 3 inches. It'll take a left, or light, and it will move backwards.